If you are not ready to work, hustle, kill, then please leave.
Here we go.
Please. Test. Testosterone, Winstrol, Trimbolone. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the Savage Excellence Podcast. I'm your host, Tristan Nelson, here with my co-host,
Will Hardy.
We are both competitive bodybuilders and coaches, and within this podcast, we preach having standards of excellence in our mental, physical, and spiritual health, as well as what it means to operate like cutthroat savages who starve for success. Here we march as a single unit down God's narrow path, and if you find value, entertainment, or any of that from this episode, please rate, comment, and subscribe. Well, let's get to the episode. All right, so today we're going to be covering pretty much all the need-to-knows 101 for contest prep. So right up the gate, Will, did you have any, I guess before we kind of get into that, how was your week?
It's pretty good, man. Lots of cool wins this week, as well as just like lots of realization moments where it's like, man, you know, I think we're starting to kind of see some more progress trickle in here through as well.
Yeah, like what kind? Because you're in a health phase right now?
Yeah. Physical and mental progress. I think the physical starting has kind of just been like, you know, obviously seeing some more veins in some cool places.
And then tell you're looking leaner.
Yeah. It's especially like in the quads. Like I haven't seen like certain lines in there ever before. And then just like I talked about a couple of these realizations on my story, just about how, you know, I'm just trying to continue to realize like it's more about, you know, like this whole thing we're doing, right? It's not about blowing up on social media. It's the actual coaching. You got to realize that main goal, and so it's easy to get kind of pulled off that, and so that's kind of where I was, you know, battling, but also kind of realizing at the same time. Yeah,
and it's tough because like we want to go viral because we want to like reach a lot of people, but at the same time, like first and foremost, I'm here to be a coach. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not trying to be like a fitness influencer. I'm trying to help people through coaching. You know what I mean? And if that content just happens to go viral, then awesome. But dude, there's so many coaches that have like 500 followers and make like 10K a month. So it's like I'm not really that concerned about going viral. I'm just concerned about who am I helping and how many people am I helping? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what kind of results am I getting then?
Exactly.
Because that's what really matters.
Yep.
My week has been going pretty awesome as well. Training started to kind of pick up again, which is nice. Introducing a little bit more caffeine. Symptoms are getting a lot better from heart stuff, which is really good. We got some tests done that we're kind of waiting to hear back on, but dude, we're definitely making steps in the right direction, which I can't tell you how good it feels to just be training at least like somewhat hard again.
Yeah.
I'm taking pretty much most sets to failure again, just pretty conservatively on like leg days.
Yeah.
I kind of like just give myself, I'm very strategic about what movements I do. So instead of like loading up like 6 plates on a hack squat per side, like I was kind of doing before, I'm doing maybe more like a pendulum with like 2 plates on each side, which feels like 6 plates on each side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's overall less stress on my body. So I think that's been helping a lot, and just keeping my mindset in a much more positive kind of direction has helped a lot as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of excited to get in this episode, kind of just talking about contest prep 101, what you kind of all need to know whenever it comes to a contest prep. How do you know you're ready for one, etc. So I'm going to kind of just come out the gate with Will and I kind of both have questions for each other that will kind of just go back and forth. I'll be kind of doing more of the in-depth, nitty-gritty questions because I've like gone through a prep.
Yeah.
Will hasn't gone through a prep yet. So I've coached athletes in prep. I've only put one athlete on stage so far, but
more coming next year.
Potentially. I probably got about 4 people looking to put on stage in this next year, which is sick.
That'd be pretty sick. Yeah.
It's gonna be a big year for Team Savage Excellence. But so we'll kind of start with a question for you. Where do you think people maybe underestimate mental aspects? What's like the mindset that they should have going into a contest prep?
I mean, I think really the mindset comes before even getting into prep, right? Like it's the biggest thing I've kind of learned in this off season is like I'm treating it like a prep, right? You have to build that mindset up where, maybe you can't flip the switch and like get nail all those variables right away. But that's why I think like so many people go into prep too early, because they don't have that mindset built up where, you have to understand, like, starting in my position, right? I got into bodybuilding and I hired Nick. And so I had no clue about how any of this stuff worked. I just knew like I wanted to get on stage, and he told me, he kind of guided me in the right direction. Like, dude, it's not about getting on stage right away. It's about finding how your body works, and then like understanding that by building a mindset of, making sure you're on your top of your meals every day, making sure you're on top of your supplements, and then eventually adding all these other variables in, like PDs, and other types of recovery tactics. Like, that's gonna overall contribute to a better, mentality going into prep. Right. I think that's where a lot of people don't really think about that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, they just make like a spontaneous decision because it looks cool on social media.
Yep.
And they're like, well, everyone else is doing it. And I feel like sometimes people are just kind of feel like it's what they do after they've been training for like 2 years and they've seen results. And they're like, oh, time to get on the bodybuilding stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like, that's just not really the case. I'm not saying like you can't do that, because I'll be honest, that was me, where I'd say I was like in the gym training a lot younger. Like, I was picking up dumbbells at 12 years old, you know what I mean? But I didn't start like being like super disciplined and consistent until I was about like 16 is when I decided like I really wanted to do a show. And I kind of knew going into that show I wasn't like expecting like Mr. Overall at 16. You know what I mean? But I just had a goal. I wanted to compete at the youngest age possible, which was 16, and I made it happen. And I'm really glad I did, because dude, you'll never regret doing a prep. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because you just learn so much. You 10x as a person. Like, at the end of the day, even if you get last place, hey, you practice discipline and hard work and grit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, that's always going to be a plus. And, it's like a local show. It's anyone can enter. You know what I mean?
Right.
So even if you get on stage and look like shit, then, I mean, it's only on you. You're only embarrassing yourself to look like shit.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people, they just see it on social media where it just looks so, like, glamorous, and they see everyone, they want to do it. But I think a lot of people vastly underestimate how much muscle they need to be competitive on stage. Because a lot of people, like, they get a pump and they like feel big, and they're only around like maybe their buddies, like, in the gym.
Yeah.
And you get on stage around people that like have a coach and have been doing this seriously for like years.
Yep.
They're like, oh
yeah. Yeah.
So
definitely a big realization moment for, I think, a lot of first-time competitors.
that was me, dude. I remember going backstage and I was just like, oh, I'm not a bodybuilder. Like,
yeah,
these guys are twice my size.
Yeah, I guess going a little bit further to mindset part, I think, it's just, a lot of it's just like the figuring out that mindset before you even like think about doing a prep. But I guess when you're kind of in a prep, I think you probably could touch more a little bit on this. Like, what was the mindset that you had, the first, section of prep, and then like the last section of prep?
Honestly, wasn't really that different. I kind of just had the same set mindset throughout the entire thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it should be. Like, if you feel like your emotions are like changing, your mindset's changing, I don't know if that's like a bad thing. Like, I guess if it improves, awesome. You know what I mean? But I was just dead set on being the best bodybuilder I can possibly be through the entire prep by any means necessary. And I just really focused one day at a time of what is my mission today? What boxes do I need to check today? And making it like
non-negotiable.
Under any circumstances, do I even lay in bed or think about laying in bed until every single box is checked? And I had my days down to like the freaking minute. Like, I remember going to my mom's house one time. She listens to these podcasts. She can tell you about this, but like, I'd like run over because like maybe a package of supplements got delivered or something. I'd be there. I'm just like, hi mom, love you. I've got 10 minutes before I have to be in bed, so I have to go. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So it's like, it's that cutthroat where you just have to like, dude, every second of the day counts. And if you're just kind of in it like, oh, I think it'd be cool to be on stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're going to get eaten alive, bro.
Yeah.
Like, people are getting on stage because they want to fucking win.
Yeah.
That was me. Like,
yeah.
I didn't care what it took. 4 a.m., Stairmaster, whatever it took. Supplements, never once missed. Cardio, never once missed. Never ate off plan, not even by a gram. every single workout, even the days I didn't want to go. Like, your emotions cannot be a part of the equation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think the mindset I have going into it is just no emotions and just being the best you can possibly be. And I wasn't even really worried about like the medals, really. Like, obviously you want to win.
Right.
But I was just focused on how I was executing.
Right.
And thinking about like, how can I make this better? How can I make this better?
Constant optimization. Yeah.
You got to look at all your variables, like your training, your recovery, your cardio, whatever, and be like, how can I make this better? How can I make it better? How can I make it better?
But at the same time, also like realizing if it's working already, probably don't need to change it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Okay. This is
We're getting into a whole different rabbit hole here.
So that's like a big mistake a lot of people make in prep is they change way too many variables, way too often. So something we can kind of dive into is maybe like the nutrition aspect of prep, of kind of what should your like fat loss actually look like in a prep. So ideally, I mean, it kind of depends what your body fat level already is. Ideally, you're somewhere maybe like 15% body fat would be kind of ideal, or less maybe even.
Yep.
But going into a prep, I'd say like anywhere from 1 pound to like 2 pounds per week is pretty ideal.
Yep.
And then, like, I honestly don't really see a prep like where you would maybe need like a refeed more than once or twice in an entire prep.
Yeah.
And this is something too a lot of people overestimate is how long they should prep. I see, dude, I've talked to so many people in my DMs where they're like, yo, Tristan, can you help me with the prep? I'm like, yeah, dude, what are you thinking? They're like, well, the show's in 8 weeks. I'm like, no.
Yeah, no thanks. You're like 16% body fat.
Yeah, right. Oh, God. Under-muscled as hell. Man, okay. If you actually want to be competitive in a competitive bodybuilding show, you need to prep for like minimum 16 weeks. Minimum.
Yeah.
And that's like given you've been working with a coach for an extended period of time.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I'd say even then, like, I start my preps like 20 weeks usually.
Yeah.
And like with my athletes too.
Yep.
And the reason why you do that, like, again, it's just this like spontaneous decision everyone wants to make. They're like, oh, weeks out, it sounds so cool, let's do it. And then it's just like, to prep yourself in 8 weeks, you're just going to crash diet and just destroy your hormones and end up looking just shit on stage.
Yeah. And then not being proud of your result.
Right. Yeah. And then you have a bad taste in your mouth, and then you're going to binge afterwards, and then you gain a bunch of fat, and then you're going to fall off the face of the earth, and then you're going to want to come crawling back to a coach.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
I did want to back up a little bit, and I want to ask you, how to know what division to compete in based on like your physique when people are looking to compete.
So most of the people I think that listen to our podcast are male. So the big things I would say, like men's physique, you're going to want the like big shoulders, big chest, good developed back. Obviously not as much of a focus on lower body, but I'd say you should still be hitting lower body because they still want to see like a balanced physique. But it's obviously kind of like more of like that beach aesthetic look, super good abs. And then I'd say like really just good upper body development, and you just want to really be very basic with your posing. Like the more simple you can make it, the better. I feel like sometimes a lot of men physique guys, they'll try to go up and on stage and like hitting these bodybuilding poses.
I just saw a video about that the other day. I don't know if you saw that, but it was like with Nick and some other like NPC judge. But they were talking about that too. Like they don't want to see any of those bodybuilding poses from men's physique guys.
Guys, if you're men's physique, do not hit bodybuilding poses on stage. Hit the poses that are relative to your division. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because it just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like, why would I be a classic physique athlete, go out there and hit a men's physique pose? Like, you'd be like, what the fuck is this dude doing?
Yeah, exactly.
So then kind of going into classic physique. Classic physique is kind of like a nice mix of mass and aesthetics. It's a good balance of both, where they want to see a symmetrical physique, so that you're going to have your leg development, upper body development, everything should just be balanced.
Yeah.
Open bodybuilding, that's where they're just looking for the freakiest motherfucker that's just jacked as hell, shredded. They just look like a freak. Kind of get into like bikini. I mean, that's pretty much just all glutes with a touch of delts. Like as long as you got glutes, you're probably a good bikini athlete. Figure, they're kind of having a little bit more of a focus on quad development, glutes, good shoulders, good back. And then like physique and open bodybuilding women, that's when they're kind of getting more like, all right, we're looking for like good conditioning, good muscle density. But you can overdo it with conditioning as a bikini athlete or even figure. Like if you're too conditioned, you'll get docked for that.
Yeah.
Because they kind of want to see like that softer look. So they're kind of women just in general are a little bit trickier to coach because there's just so many specifics to their body, their division, their coaching. Whereas men are kind of a little bit more straightforward. But that's
do you think it's probably easier with more of an unbiased look at your physique? So maybe like a coach helping you out, like figuring out what that might look like. Yeah.
Well, just having a coach is invaluable because they can give you outside perspective.
Yep.
Whereas like in a prep, dude, I mean, you're literally prepping yourself down to such little calories and a caloric deficit to the point where like your brain isn't even working correctly.
Yeah.
So trying to make those decisions for yourself, like you'll never get like the best decision.
Right.
Because your brain's not at full capacity. So,
right. Yeah.
And you can like go ask a friend, but that's not going to be nearly as beneficial as someone who's had time in the industry, experience, and they know your body specifically. Like it's not just like friendly advice.
Right.
Like they're giving you calculated advice, and then they're giving you the truth.
Right.
Is what a real coach should do. And sometimes that means pulling you out of a show. I think coaches need to be ready to make that decision if you're not at the right point body fat wise, or like.
I think that's like kind of a big issue. Like there's not a lot of coaches that actually are willing to do that for their athletes.
Yeah, I mean that's a real ass coach. So many coaches will like. I literally just had a conversation with one of my buddies at the gym the other day on the treadmill where he was going to be on a national stage, and he was like, he knew in his mind that he was not at the caliber he wanted to be, but his coach was like, dude, you look great, just trust the process,
Just like, kind of trying to hype
kind
him
of
up.
gassing him up. You know? And then he gets on stage and gets dead last.
Bro.
Like on a national stage. Like that's so embarrassing, bro. For the athlete and the coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and because if like as a coach, the athlete I put on stage, how they look is my product with my signature. So like, you should take that seriously as a coach.
Yeah.
And as an athlete, like I would hate to go on stage knowing I look like shit in front of such a niche sport, in front of the judges that are gonna just see my physique. I'd be so pissed.
Yeah.
So I guess like in your opinion, how can you say to people, how can they set up their environment in the way that would be the most productive and conducive to a prep?
So I think when it comes to environment, I think it's really determining on the people you surround yourself with. Like that's a huge part.
Yeah, 100%.
Because in a prep, like you're trying to keep that and ride that midline as much as you possibly can and keep as much positive energy around you. So if you're in a negative environment where maybe, I know people who come from environments where maybe their family isn't, the best, when it comes to treating them, or maybe they have friends where maybe they're just, the friends are a little bit jealous or they have insecurity issues and then they portray that on to the competitor, and it can really it can really affect the mindset of, someone who's competing, especially if you surround yourself with those people. I mean, it goes into, the basic stuff with life too, right? Like if you're a business and are not in the right circle, like it can affect that stuff too. But I think, people is number one. I think also being in an environment where you have very easy access to things. So like number one, you're probably closer to your coach. I think when you have a coach that's, farther away, like a state or two over, or even like a country over, that's where things can get a little bit hard, because it's like, I think there is value in being able to catch a lift with your coach during prep, being able to have him see you in person versus on just photos.
Yeah, I agree.
And then on top of that, right, like what I was talking about, the easy other access like items is like, being able to be close to, the gym or grocery stores. So it's not like when you're on that dead end, trail or prep, like the last couple of weeks, it's not so much energy that you have to expend to, do those things, because once you get to that level at body fat, like you said before, especially, like you're not able to like think properly. So you add PEDs on top of that, and it's like just like this more, 100%. It just gets more complicated, and it's harder and harder to have that mindset. So being able to keep things easy for yourself, developing systems of habits.
Systems, I was going to say, is huge.
That's huge.
Finding routines within everything of your day. So you don't have to think, you just execute. Exactly.
And that goes to the pre-prep stage, or stage 2 as well. So like setting everything up for prep and setting up those systems so you can just execute like that. I think that's like the hugest, like the three parts of the environment is the people you surround yourself with, the physical environments, the things that are close by you, as well as your coach being close to you as well.
Yeah. I would say keeping a clean environment is super important too. I always kind of say like the environment's almost kind of like a reflection of how clean and organized my mind is.
Yep.
So having like a dirty, unorganized thing, like that's just going to automatically make you stressed out, and you're not going to be able to handle the stress throughout the day as much. So just being like in that clean, organized environment honestly plays such a big role, in my opinion.
That's huge. Yeah.
And in your environment as well, I would say kind of like more of like a mindset than environment, but making like the first part of your morning, usually I feel like the mornings dictate a lot of your day. So if you can, a big thing for me in my last prep was starting my day with meditation, especially like before the gym. And I actually kind of had this like little like mental trick with LED lights in my room where I would meditate before I trained, and I would set the color to red as like more of like an aggressive, like I'm getting ready to go to battle, like I'm getting ready to train. But then at night I would meditate with the color blue as like a more calm, like I'm getting ready to calm down kind of vibe. So like you can use like these kind of like mental things to kind of like trick your brain into certain things. Like on days like when you're starving and you're trying to get up like in the morning to go to the gym or do cardio and you just don't want to do it, doing like little things like that to just put your mind in the right frame instead of just waking up and be like, all right, who posted on Instagram?
Right.
I mean, like it's going to be two way different outcomes of how you train and how you perform.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, your morning and nightly routines are huge. I guess, I know we kind of touched a little bit briefly on this, but I guess maybe more touching on the muscularity side as well as like, the body fat percentage. When do you know that you're ready for a prep?
Well, it kind of depends on the individual and what division they're doing, because it's not like you have to be this specific body weight of muscle to be ready for a prep.
Right.
Because, I mean, dude, I think a lot of people kind of overvalue how much size really matters, but I think like the size needs to be there, but it's really like the shape and the conditioning and the posing and all of that kind of stuff matters. And size too, but size isn't like everything. You know what I mean? Because I've beaten guys that are bigger than me on stage.
Yeah.
I've had my client Caleb who beat people twice his size on stage.
Yeah.
But just because he had such great shape, and on the natural stage they really value posing and conditioning, we really worked on his posing throughout that prep. He probably had the best posing there, and he was probably the most conditioned national athlete there as well. And even though he was 19 going against probably like mid-20-year-olds, twice his size, he pretty much beat all of them except for one person, got second overall, just from those two main things.
Yeah.
So how do you know you're ready muscularity-wise? Well, first you need to know like what division are you competing in? Do you have the muscle in the right places? Do you have the right shape? Do you have the right body fat? Like, are all of those things right? Posing, things like that. And then, I mean, I would say as long as you have those, like you don't need to be like a mass monster to be ready for a prep. But as long as you have those, then I'd say, I mean, as long as you have the financial means and you have the right job where you can be like really structured and you're a good mind space for it, I'd say you're ready. You know what I mean? Might as well go for it. Because you can always do more preps in the future too. Like, it's not like this one prep is going to
be the end all be all. Yeah.
I would also say it really kind of depends on what is winning currently in shows. Like that's where like as a coach you should be.
I think it's underlooked.
Very underlooked is like you should be kind of paying attention as like a coach who is currently winning shows, what our judges making the standard for winning currently, and then you want to try to match that athlete to that standard best as possible.
Yeah. I think that's huge.
But yeah, man.
I know you kind of recently touched as well on like the financial side. I think that's a huge part. And that's something like that's, I think, currently holding a lot of people back is being able to have the financial means to go into a prep, because preps be expensive.
Oh man, one thing I also wanted to touch on too, knowing when like you're ready to prep, is also how long have you been with your coach is a big thing. Like how well do you know your body, and how well do you train, and how well do you execute all your variables already? Yeah. I'd say those are like some big ones too, because a lot of people will start a prep and they don't even know like basics to training yet. Right. You know what I mean? I'm like, bro, you got to learn how to actually train first. You know what I mean? Yep. But yeah, those are, go ahead into your next question. I just want to make sure I stated those.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was just kind of like, yeah, the financial side it's huge because, if you're not in the right spot with your job, right? Like let's say you work a 9 to 5 job, or maybe you work an odd, like a night shift job. Like that adds on to even more like stress, and it's not, it's not impossible to do, but it's definitely harder to do.
Sure.
When it comes to, competing. And so being able to have the right job, because that adds on to the environment, and then being able to have enough money to, buy the supplements that you need, buy the food that you need, the necessary PDs if that's a thing as well. So, pay for your coach. Like all these things are going to add up, and then you add on the actual, cost of the actual show itself, registering for the show. You got to get your NPC card. Then you got to get, all these, the tanning, the makeup if you're a female, the haircuts,
hotel,
hotel, all that stuff, airfare if you're going to a national show, like all that stuff adds up. So making sure that you have all that stuff prepped beforehand. I think the biggest thing we're trying to get across here in a lot of these different aspects, and when you're actually ready for prep, is the pre-prep stage.
Yeah.
Like prep doesn't start when prep starts. It starts, years even, I would say.
Starts 24/7.
Yeah, I would say because you can't just have like a season where you're locked in.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the whole like thing with the winter arc.
Yeah.
It's not the winter arc. You got to be locked in 24/7 for this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 365.
This be like the third time I've dropped my phone.
Butterfingers over here.
Yeah, seriously. It's the caffeine.
So I did want to know what should fat loss look like in a prep? I know we kind of briefly touched on this, like 1 to 2 pounds a week. I guess if you could go more in depth with maybe your experiences, what you like to see as a coach.
I like to see my athletes ready to step on stage like 6 weeks prior to getting on stage.
Okay.
Maybe like even 4 weeks or so. They should be ready body fat wise at least like a month before they step on stage. Because that's what a lot of people do as a mistake is like they crash diet because they start their prep too soon or too late, I mean. So then they are trying to do like excessive amounts of cardio. They're pulling calories down excessively, and then their body just shrivels, holds water, and then looks flat on stage.
Yep.
Whereas if you take your time with slow fat loss and you get to the point where you need to about a month before, you can actually pull off the gas now, start to add in more food, slightly bring the physique back to life with that low body fat, and you're going to get the muscle fullness, conditioning, all of that you want to see out of the physique. So in terms of like actual fat loss, like I was saying, you kind of want to see like 1 to 2 pounds loss averagely. If you have like a fluctuation maybe there, you don't have to be like, holy shit, 400 calorie decrease. Daily, you know what I mean? Like you don't need to freak out as long as it's like visually is what you're really going for, is that you're seeing like more detail in the physique consistently. But I'd say just being very moderate. I'd always go with a carb cycling approach with your diet to where you have more just carbs, fats on your training days to promote performance, your hormones, etc. And then on your rest days, you have slightly less carbs, probably about like 200 to 400 calories less, I would say, the carbs and fats. That way you can kind of keep that insulin sensitivity there while maximizing performance and still creating a good deficit, especially with like one meal having pretty much zero carbs is really good for the overall gut motility throughout the day of having just the pancreas in general, not having to secrete as much insulin throughout the body to keep up with carbs every single meal helps a lot. And then utilizing cardio in the right places, I would recommend probably list cardio, low intensity steady state, to where you're just kind of like walking at an incline. HIIT works. I mean, like calories burned are calories burned. Right. But I would say like,
that kind of airs more on the fatiguing side.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Also, your body has two different energy sources, which is carbohydrates and fats. So when you're doing like high intensity kind of training, like weight training, like you're going to be prioritizing more of the glycogen usage in the muscles from the carbohydrates. Same thing from like HIIT cardio. When you're going hard, your body's going to use that like instant fuel. Whereas if you're like a low intensity steady state, your body's like, all right, we don't need to like use up these carbs right now for this high intensity like training. So it'll pull more from those like fat stores. It'll be more wanting to use that second reservoir instead of its first reservoir if it's just more like a steady state incline. So that's what I'd probably recommend, something like that. But if you kind of get to the point where like you just need more cardio, obviously you don't want someone just doing like 2 hours of incline treadmill every day just to hit the calorie target. So you might have to eventually switch over to more of like a high intensity like elliptical or something. I'm personally not a big fan of Stairmaster. Like, it works.
Yep.
I feel like it's kind of just like what bodybuilders think they should do.
Yep.
Because like that's what Jay Cutler and all them did.
Yeah.
Which is, it's fine, but it is going to be a little bit more abrasive to your joints. It has a steeper eccentric of like your feet. So there's also more risk for injury on there. I can't tell you how many times I've been on a Stairmaster and like almost trip on my face. Or like you see people like busting up their shins on it or something like that. So like I just don't really think it's that necessary. If we could just be on like an elliptical or something like that, where you're stationary and you're using your whole body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a little bit less taxing like on the lower body.
Yeah. So I want to briefly touch on this as well. I know you mentioned like kind of fat loss being like 1 to 2 pounds a week on average. Are you trying with like your athletes? I guess with Caleb, when you prepped him, were you pulling off more fat at the beginning of the prep and then kind of slowly dicing it back? Okay. Yeah, that's one thing I want to touch on because I think a lot of people like with the crash diets like can just pull off way too many calories off the get-go. I just was curious on like your opinion about that.
So my opinion on like crash dieting or
like kind of just like how the crash dieting happens with a lot of people versus like, you know, going and pulling calories off and trying to get like the majority of fat loss off the beginning instead of just like having a consistent like base of calories.
Well, you'll never see someone win a show that crash dieted.
Right.
Never.
Yeah.
And if anyone does, it's probably because they're a professional bodybuilder who is already pretty shredded and know their body inside and out. That's probably the only exception. I've never seen anyone prep themselves and win a bodybuilding show that is not a professional or like their first 1 to 3 shows.
Right.
Or someone that has crash dieted into a show. Has never once, at least 90%, probably if not more, will ever be first callouts or win a show. So that's why like you have to start earlier. Because like I said, like crash dieting just destroys your hormones. Nothing's going to function properly. You're just going to look like shit on stage. Whereas if you take your time, you can kind of ease off on cardio, bring stress down, bring food up. And a lot of times your physique will actually look even better doing that. Yeah. Like a lot of people think that they just need to constantly pull down calories to get more and more shredded. But if you're already down to a really shredded spot, adding in more food will actually probably make you even leaner and bring your physique back to life so that you're going to have a better look on stage, which is so important. So I would say it's pretty paramount to start, perhaps like I said, like no less than 16 weeks. And like with Caleb, when we started, he was like kind of chubby. And dude, we were going into it. The only reason why it worked is because he also executed like a fucking dog, like every T. And he was just losing fat like crazy. Like we were just executing. He was staying very communicative with me. And throughout that whole process, I was just like learning his body inside out. And I was being very diligent about what was working and what wasn't. Yeah. I tried first like, hey, let's try this sushi refeed, see how your body responds. And it was all right. But then maybe a few weeks later, I gave him specific macros and specific ingredients I want you to eat and see how he responded. He responded better to that. And so that's what we went with, where, you know, I think a lot of people will be like, all right, refeed time, go get a burger and something like that. Yeah, yep. But it's like the problem with that is you can't recreate those macros strategically and accurately. So if you tell them like, hey, I need you to get this amount of rice, this amount of chicken, this amount of fats on top of your meals with these exact macros, and they respond really well, you're like, perfect. Now I know exactly how much you need to recreate that look in the future or to tweak it accordingly. And you can also kind of see, maybe give them like one refeed more with like carbohydrates, more fats, maybe moderate protein. And then the next refeed, try it more with fats, less carbs, see which one they benefit more from. You can go with the one that they worked more with. So like that's what I did with Caleb is I had them do that refeed and I kind of incorporated it in again later. His body's very responsive. So I don't really have to give him a lot to see a good reaction from it. Right. Like even in his off season, I don't have to give him like a ton of food because his body is just so responsive to everything. But kind of like long story short, you need to take your time, and that's what's so valuable about having a coach is because like they can learn those nitty gritty details. Like, do you respond better to fats? Do you respond better to carbs? Do you respond better with this or that in the training? Like he was being really responsive. Like, hey. In my training, these barbell squats are getting pretty taxing for me. Cool, let's pull that out. Let's sub it for this exercise. That's less stress on your body. Exactly, yep. You're making those fine little tweaks to make sure that you're truly building something that's custom to the athlete and not just like cookie cutter.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
To get the best result from them on stage.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, one I got for you is not training hard enough in a prep, and when my brain starts to say two words at the same time.
Yeah.
When do you think is maybe the right time for training hard and maybe not training as hard in prep?
Well, I mean, I'm a huge believer in the fact that, I think you should be maintaining lifts for the most part, the majority of prep, if not all your prep, I would say. There's been, I know some people who don't lose any strength whatsoever on prep. In fact, some of them gain strength. And so I do think that you should be, maintaining, if not gaining strength for the majority of prep. I think until like the very end, once obviously like you're kind of bringing back like the training a little bit to just reduce fatigue. And you probably know a little bit more about with like Caleb and that situation as well. But I think also when it comes to like volume as well, on this cut I'm doing, like, obviously it's not a prep, but we've kept volume the same for the last like 6 weeks. And I thought that like before, like I thought that like, oh, like, you should bump down volume immediately. And it's like, dude, my body's fine. Like, I haven't had any sort of like fatigue issues. And I think that's where people like just get it wrong is they think, and most of these guys are science-based lifters, right? Is they're like, all right, well, I just need to immediately pull down volume and just keep intensity high. And yeah, that works, but I think you're still not getting the right stimulus because you're just dropping volume by so much. And I think that's important when it comes to retention of muscle and not looking at like a string being on stage. Yeah. Keeping the volume there for when you need it and like responding as the body changes. Yeah. Attuning, like making the changes as the athlete gives the biofeedback.
Oh man, dude.
You know what I mean? Because
feedback is so underrated.
Because I think so many people are just like, well, and then this goes more into the cookie cutter plan that you were talking about, is they'll just be like, all right, here's your set volume, here's your set sets, this is what I want for reps, and they'll just do it throughout the whole prep, and they won't make changes, or they'll make changes based on the pre-set out plan for them, and instead of listening to the actual athlete's response, the biofeedback, okay, is this feeling, fatiguing, right? Am I feeling like I'm just dragging my feet 10 feet behind me? You know what I mean? And so I think that's where like the issue is when it comes to training volume is people like the coaches don't assess that and the athletes don't maybe communicate properly with the coach. Right. Yeah. So I think and just kind of ending on that point, like you should be keeping, training intensity as high as possible and listening to your coach when it comes to that, because you don't want to look like a string and be on stage, right? So like that's kind of like the main point I would say when it comes to training hard.
Yeah. Good bodybuilders don't change shit from off-season to prep, except for just lower calories and a little bit more movement. That's really all it is. Yeah. Everything else should be pretty much the same. With training, so I think that's a lot. Dude, so much about like coaching and bodybuilding is so person independent. Yeah. Because some people recover faster than others, some people not as much. But I think most people, I would say strength will decline at about 4 weeks out, unless like PEDs are present. Like that's going to be like the one outside factor. And even with PEDs, I mean, strengths can still decline. But you should be pretty much training all out intensity effort, max effort, entire prep until maybe about like that 3 weeks out, maybe even slightly 4 weeks out. That's pretty much the only time I'll start to incorporate reps in reserve. Just because the person's body, like again, if you prep properly and you're getting down to that really low body fat, your body's going to get more fragile. So I don't really want to see my athletes doing like heavy barbell squats 4 weeks out of a show, just because you're going to be at really high risk for injury. Because with less fat, you have less support around your connective tissues and ligaments. So with that heavy weight, you're at more risk of like tearing those. And it's like, well, if we tear those, what was the point of this whole prep? You know what I mean? Yeah. So you kind of want to be smart with it. Kind of going into, I'd say like 4 weeks out, I'll kind of start to incorporate maybe like 1 to 2 reps in reserve. 3 weeks out, maybe like 2 to 3, and then like 2 weeks out, maybe like 4 reps in reserve on some movements, and then like 1 week out, I'm pretty much just having them do like pump up workouts. Yeah. Like I just want you to go in the gym, get a pump in these movements, and get out like 6 reps in reserve. Like do not overdo it. That way you're just kind of keeping that blood flow moving, keeping those kind of glycogen stores ready to be absorbent of carbohydrates, you know what I mean? So they're not just kind of like tapped out. You're keeping the shape to the muscle. Is really what's important.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't really just go being into your prep like training balls to the wall the entire time, I would say, especially towards that end. Some people are like that. I mean, like James Hollingshed, like some people are just animals and they'll just be fucking rowing like 405 with barbell.
Or Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah, some people are just built different like that, man. But that's not the case for most people.
Yeah.
So that's what I would kind of say with training. But dude, a lot of the times, like you just got to show up. And there's going to be a lot of days where you just feel like absolute dog shit in prep. I know you haven't really quite experienced that yet.
No.
But dude, you get to the point where like it fucking hurts to sit. You know? And I remember like just days at work where if I wasn't super busy, like on the sales floor at Verizon, dude, I'd go in the back, sit down, and just like lay my head down and just like be like, I feel like such shit. But you go into the gym on days and you're just like you're really like kind of questioning yourself of like, dude, this is the worst. You know? You kind of start to really feel like what people mean when they say they're suffering. You know what I mean? Again, I'm kind of like weary about the word suffering because it's not like I'm a slave or I'm like a starving child. Like that's real suffering. Like this is I'd say it's like voluntarily suffering. You know what I mean? And what a beautiful thing to do, to be able to choose our own suffering. I think that's like such a blessing. But
I did want to touch on like posing practice as well, because we kind of went into training and cardio as well. So like the kind of last piece of like, you know, the energy is going to be, you know, led to posing practice. I think that's really underrated. How is your posing approach when it comes to like the majority of prep, if not the last couple weeks of prep?
Well, again, it kind of depends on the athlete. And I think this is something a lot of coaches overlook, is programming how much posing to do. Because a lot of people don't know this, but like posing, like real posing practice, where you're like holding poses, doing rounds, not like front double bicep, all right, selfie, side chest, selfie. Like that's not posing practice. That's just taking some photos of your physique. But like real posing practice where you're like holding a front relaxed, holding a like side relaxed, like you're doing like rounds. You know what I mean? Like you should be like, you'll be sweating, bro. Like I get dripping sweat. In fact, like burning calories, doing that kind of posing burns almost as just many calories as like high intensity cardio. So like if you're not like measuring that, like they could be in more of a deficit than you realize or less. So I think it's really important that you program it in. So even like with a figure competitor I have right now, she's in her off season. I have her programmed for like 20 minutes, 4 times a week, just so I kind of know exactly how much is being done. And then you can kind of tweak that. I think 20 minutes is kind of the sweet spot because you don't want to like overdo it. But at the same time, I'm kind of just obsessed with it sometimes. And dude, my last prep for the first half of my prep, I probably prepped for like 6 months. I think the first like 4 months, I posed for like close to an hour a day.
Wow.
And because and I'll be honest, most of it was probably towards my routine. And it should have been towards my mandatories. I still practice my mandatories quite a bit. I tried to hold each pose for like a minute straight was my goal, which is not easy. But that's just kind of what you got to do. And even then, I honestly felt like under practice on stage. I think what's really important is if you want just like a good like number to go for, I would try to do like 8 rounds in a row of holding each pose for like minimum 30 seconds, which is like good core control. And just try to do that for like 20 minutes a day to the point where it looks effortless. You shouldn't be on the stage where like with your gut coming out, like gasping for breath or shaking on stage. Like those are things that you are going to get docked for. So I think it's just posing is really underutilized or kind of overlooked because they think it's just all about the conditioning and the size. But dude, you can look massive and shredded, and if you pose like shit, like you're gonna get second to the person that it looks great. So having a good posing coach, I think, is really important too.
I was actually about to just touch on that.
That's something I love with like my coaching that I think sets it apart from others. Is I do everything for people, like not really for females because I don't really know to pose great for females. But
not yet.
You know, not yet. My heels are on the way. Amazon Prime, but like for Caleb, we did posing practice pretty often where we just would hop on FaceTime, kind of make critiques. And then on top of that, I also had him seek out like professional coaching through other people.
Yep.
So that when he came on stage, like everything was just dialed. And that was, like I said, a big reason why he ended up beating a lot of other people there.
Yep.
But I think that's like a big mistake a lot of beginners make, is, including myself, was they over practice the routine and under practice the mandatories.
Yeah.
So I would say whenever you're going into posing practice, start with your mandatories first, because just like training, we got to prioritize.
Right.
Like your calves, if they need to come up, do those first. Do your mandatories first for the most energy, and then practice the routine afterwards. Plus, then you're kind of warmed up like with posing, and you can do your routine better anyway. So, with routines, I kind of want to touch on too is, even though routines aren't judged, they do matter.
Yep.
Because if someone comes in with like a shit routine, even though you're not critiqued like officially for points on it, you're still being judged. You know what I mean? And if I see an athlete, like if I was a judge at a bodybuilding show and I saw an athlete that had a really good routine,
that's what he's lost.
Trash. No. Just start throwing tomatoes at him. No. But like if someone has like a really, really well made choreographed routine, that speaks to me like this person loves bodybuilding so much they're willing to put in a lot of effort to something that's not even like they don't even get points for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You look at like Terrence Ruffin or Logan Franklin, like they exude champion energy, in my opinion, because they pay attention to the things that don't even necessarily quote unquote matter. You know what I mean? So I think it says a lot about the character of the athlete, of someone who has like a well-made routine as well.
Yeah. I know you kind of briefly touched on posing coaches, but I kind of wanted to take a moment and talk about just like coaching overall, like picking the right coach, maybe some red flags that you've kind of seen in previous coaches or what to watch out for. I guess if you want to put your opinion on that.
Yeah, so I would like find coaches you feel like you vibe with personality-wise. You agree with the information they put out. They get results that you would like ideally like to see, and you see them keeping clients over the long term with results, and that they're consistent in their message. So they don't fall off for like months at a time or something like that. They have like good proof, they have good client testimonials, and you respect like what they say, like it just vibes with you, and you feel like your missions like align. I think is really important. Things like to look out for, I would say, is them. I mean, there's like a lot of them you can go over, but maybe one is them not knowing like what to do if something doesn't go right. You know what I mean? So like if you have an athlete, no coach in the world knows everything, obviously. But if you have a coach where like, hey, maybe you're not seeing the fat loss that you want to see, and you ask him like, yo, coach, I feel like we haven't been seeing the fat loss correctly. Or like, hey, my weight hasn't gone down for the past 3 months. Like, what do you think is going on? And they're like, yeah, I'm not sure. Like, that's not the right response.
No. Yeah.
Even if you don't know, your response should be like, hey, we're not quite seeing literally this just happened to me a little bit ago with Chris.
Yeah.
Like, we've been seeing great results, but I haven't quite seen like the fat loss I wanted to see.
Yep.
So I was like, Chris, give me a minute. I'm going to reach out to some of my mentors and other coaches I kind of stay in contact with and see like what they maybe have to say around this. This is what I think is maybe going on. But before we make a decision, I want to get like other like insight from people that have been doing this longer than me.
Yeah.
And see if they agree with it before we make any changes.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I reached out. They agreed. They gave me some good input I didn't think about. And then I made changes based on that. And I'm like, now we're seeing results again. You know what I mean? So it's like, even if you don't know the answer, they should always be willing to seek out the answer. That's something that's important.
Yeah, I think that's huge, actually.
What are some points that you have?
One thing I want to touch on, obviously, that we've already kind of touched on it before, was just like the cookie cutter approach, right?
Yeah.
Not customizing the program to the athlete, listening for the biofeedback, and not having the right communication with the athlete. I think there's...
Yeah, that's huge.
I mean, I think... And we're in the bodybuilding area, like the bodybuilding style of coaching, but I think it's important to realize like there should be some level of communication outside just your chickens. Because right, like I mean, there's, with bodybuilding coaching, it seems like A lot of coaches just do like the weekly check-ins, but the ones that go above and beyond are the ones that are reaching out on maybe just a random day.
Yeah.
Right?
I
Like,
agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I've been really kind of taking that in. I'll be honest, I don't think that's like
a game, like I wouldn't say it's like a make or break, but I think it definitely adds.
Because some coaches, they're very just like, I've worked with some coaches that are very just like all business kind of approach. Where like they still care about you, like they still make you a priority, but it's like there's not really like that outside aspect. But that's definitely how I like to coach. Like I really like to know my athlete inside and out. I like to know how they're doing at work. I like to know how their kids are doing. I like to know all of those little things. Because I just feel like that's what a good coach does. And something I kind of like to do as a coach is I'll have like my check-ins, say for example on Thursday, but then I'll try to follow up with every one of my athletes like every Monday. Because like that's where a lot of people maybe fall off. That's kind of maybe like a start of the week where it's kind of like check in, be like, maybe if we had something that we're specifically trying to work on or they're going through, like say, I think I had an athlete, I know I had an athlete that just went through like a wisdom tooth surgery removal. So I was followed up with her Monday, like, hey, how's your recovery going? How's like your eating been? How's training? Have you been able to get back in the gym? You know, just follow up things like that is so crucial because it tells like the athlete, hey, I gave a shit about you other than your paycheck to me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think that is really important. The communication just in general, like if you're not responding to your athletes more than like outside of like 24 hours, like I just really think you got other priorities. Unless there's like something outside of that that's happening in your own life. But again, you should be taking the responsibility to communicate that to your team. For sure.
I think those points are huge. I'm trying to think if there's any other like main ones.
Not checking blood work.
Yeah, that's actually a huge one. I think that not many coaches.
It honestly surprised me how many people I talked to. And I'll be like, hey, have you ever worked the coach before? Yeah. When was the last time you guys got blood work done? They're like, huh?
Blood work?
That's not the right response.
Yeah. I think that's huge. I feel like we're just being a dead horse at this point when it comes to blood work because we talk about it all the time.
But it's important.
But it's important. I think, you know, especially like if you're considering like this more competitive lifestyle and you get into the PD world, you know, that's where things can go sideways really quick if you don't have the
even natural, man. Like it's important for everyone. Yeah. Because if something's like down-regulated, if someone's not losing fat, like they could have a down-regulated thyroid. That's playing a big control. Dude, I have never realized how many people's thyroids are fucked.
Yeah,
like,
it's crazy.
So many people. Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah, I think that's a huge red flag if the coach is not checking blood work. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Maybe trying to push things on you. Like, I'm trying to think of how to say this. I think when coaches are trying to push, like maybe they want you to move up in a division, but it's like you're set in stone on your, like you don't want to be pushing PDs, but like the coach is like, all right, I think you would look better in this division. Like we need to push more of this. I mean, I'm not saying a lot of coaches do that. It's kind of less common, but I've definitely seen, you know, cases out there where it's like, all right, coach is clearly just wanting to see more results to better himself and his brand and image rather than actually help and benefit the athlete.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the decisions you make as a coach should be based off blood work, I would say. Like based off your PEDs, your supplements, maybe even some nutrition, or even like off biofeedback. But you could even maybe catch some like disease maybe someone didn't know they had or are potentially prone to having. You can catch a lot of those things through blood work. So plus it's just like, why would you not want to know like where your health is at? Right. You know what I mean? Like bodybuilder or not, I think everyone should just get their blood work done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
So something I want to ask you is, I think that's pretty much most of the questions I have.
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing I wanted to talk about is how to peak properly. You can kind of touch on this.
Oh yeah. So considering that you've done all the right things of starting your prep at least 16 weeks out, you've done the proper steps to get conditioned properly. I'd say like going into, like, you know what kind of macros you need for like refeeds, stuff like that. Let's say the peaking process, I would say, starts like a week before, roughly. And then I like to kind of do like a cascade effect or like a crescendo of calories and macros to where maybe like that first day you kind of do like a 100 to 200 calorie increase. Because like when you're super shredded, dude, like a little bit of an increase will make a big difference. Like you'll be surprised. But then you can kind of maybe double it or so each day based on what they have. Maybe not up to the point where it's like you're doubling it entirely what they're eating, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just kind of building it up to the point like where you're seeing that physique get fuller and fuller. You're seeing a little bit more vascularity. Not cutting water is super important. Not cutting sodium, that's super important. Because you want like a full look to the muscle, and a full look to a muscle requires full glycogen stores, it requires sodium, and it requires water, which if you're under consuming sodium, that sodium pulls the water into the muscle. So if you're not really having the proper sodium, like that water is just going to be kind of looking like water retention. You know what I mean? So you got to have that to suck it into the muscle to give it that full look. But keep it clean food is what is super important. Keep it food that you've been eating. Don't start incorporating like burgers or just random foods that you haven't been
I think that's another red flag we could say on a coach who does that.
100%. Like, that's just like those old school methods, you know, that they just don't really work. And if they do, it's because like there's like a genetic anomaly and anything kind of works for them.
Or they guess and it somehow magically happens, which like never actually happens.
But yeah, because like your body's going to be super sensitive at that state to anything that it hasn't. Our bodies are like, they're very pattern recognizing bodies. So when you give it something outside of that pattern, it's going to have a response that's like, what the fuck is this?
Right.
Managing stress is going to be huge too. I'd recommend trying to get to your show spot wherever it is at least like 2 days in advance. So because if it's like 2-4 hours away, the stress of that travel can increase your cortisol, which can increase water retention as well. So just making sure that you have that time to like just kind of chillax, keep cortisol low, and then you'll be more respondent of the food that comes in as well. But as you kind of like increase the food, you start to get that slowly more and more full look. The big things that are going to be really important that I like to incorporate with my people, especially naturals, is packets of like vitamin C with each meal. Because vitamin C is actually a natural diuretic. So it'll help you kind of like piss some of that shit out. It'll help you kind of get that drier look. And then as you kind of get into like your backstage point, maybe like on show day, it's super important that you have a bowel movement in the morning so that your like gut motility will be kind of maximized for the rest of the day. And then you want to try to get a meal in as soon as possible so you have like as much calories in before you get on stage with ample time to actually digest that food. And then when you're backstage, again, do not just go straight to like the treats and shit backstage. I see a lot of people like eating Pop-Tarts or like chocolate, you know, things like that. And you're not going to have a good response from that. I'd say try to stick it to like, you know, like rice cakes, honey, salt, water. That's really all you need, to be honest. Maybe some people that respond to fats better, you can do some like almond butter or something. I've seen some pros utilize like muffins. Like they respond well to that. So I mean, again, you got to find like what works for that athlete. But most people, that's a good place to start, just like that clean, easy digesting food. I try to get those in like, maybe some of them like an hour before you step on stage, and then like another before, like maybe 20 minutes before you get on, just like rice cake and some honey, a little bit of salt, water, boom, dude, you're pretty much good to go. Dude, it was kind of crazy with Caleb backstage. We were getting him ready. He, like I said, he's the only person I've actually put on stage, and dude, I fucking nailed his peak. It looked so damn good. And we were like backstage, having like some rice cakes, some honey, and I was just like, man, I just feel like we're missing something here, because I'm just not getting like the vascularity and the pop that I want. And like we were doing everything just right, like kept water and everything, and I was just like, I shit you not, someone like walked behind me and just like whispered the word sodium. And I was like, oh fuck, like we need to get a little bit more sodium in it. So I literally, Ethan Cordero, he was there competing too. Yeah, and he was like out in the corner. I like walked over to him, was like, yo dude, you got any like salt on you? And he had like one of those little shakers, and I like a little water bottle with me, and he was like, yeah, you can use it. So I grabbed it, I twisted off the little cap, so it was like maybe like a quarter of a teaspoon, just poured in some salt, filled it up with water so you could wash it down and kind of like help react with it. And dude, within like 3 minutes, dude just got vascular as shit. And just super tight. And I was like, oh yeah, there it is. Dude, I just felt like a mad scientist back then, like with my cauldron, just like just like making spells and shit.
That's awesome.
But by the time he walked on stage, dude, like he looked crispy as hell, quad striations, looked nutty. And it was because we were diligent about our refeeds. They were structured. We were calculated. Nothing was given to him that he hadn't been having.
Yep.
And we kept all the same things in there, didn't restrict anything, and we got the look that we were going for.
Yeah.
Oh, one last thing I wanted to touch on is not overdoing your pump up is super important.
Yep.
Again, your body is in like that survival state. So whenever you fill up those glycogen stores, like your body's not going to be able to hold on to like a ton of it. So like you can burn through it really fast. A lot of people think that like before they go on stage, they need to get like a pump that they've been having in the off season. You know what I mean? And like, dude, do not do that. I've made that mistake where you just like try to pump up and get the biggest pump you can. But then by the time you go on stage and they like run you through rounds of posing, you get flat.
Yeah.
So just get like literally a light pump with like some bands to the point where it's like you maybe feel like you just did like maybe a top set like
Of
in real training.
Yeah.
And then go on stage because as you pose, you're going to get harder on stage.
Yep.
So that's super important.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the main stuff I had.
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of wraps up kind of all the points, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to kind of add on to that, or?
No, I mean, I just say really the biggest advice I can say for you, and I'm not even trying to like plug myself, is dude, hire a coach.
Yeah.
That's number one. And hire a coach that's like reputable in what they're doing. They're getting results that like you can see obviously work.
Yep.
Talk to people that have worked with them. Maybe follow their page for a while just to see like there's someone you really want to work with.
Yep.
They're going to be game changer to your success, man. A lot of people I feel like just think they can do it all themselves or something like that, which I respect, like wanting to learn, because like they want to like learn their bodies, but you can still do that with a coach. And I'd argue even better with a coach.
Yep.
Because you're learning what works for you and from like their advice from their years of experience.
Yeah.
So that's just so paramount, man.
Yeah.
And posing. Do not neglect posing.
Yeah. One thing I was going to add as well, again, not trying to plug myself here again, I think being able to hire a coach before you even consider prep. Yeah,
100%.
You know, being able to put the right size on, being able to have a coach that understands your body beforehand is going to make a huge, huge difference.
Yeah. And now this is where I am going to plug myself. If you want, if you're looking at like doing a show and you haven't started yet, dude, just go to my Instagram at Trist_Nelson. You can see some of the results I've already gotten people. And I'm one of the best coaches in the game. And I know Will's like on his way there as well. Okay, hold on. I'm not one of the best coaches in the game. I wouldn't, like I have some humility there. But I'm really good at what I do for like this area, I would say for sure. And in general, I think my program offers a lot of things other programs don't. Yeah. In terms of, like we focus on our faith and spirituality, and we do like the challenges to keep each other at a high level of intensity. We do all those little things, and I like to be that coach that makes sure that my people know I care about them, and ultimately gets them the results that they want, because that's what people are like really paying for.
Exactly.
So if you guys do want some help, just let me know. I'll also do the posing coaching. So one of my favorite things about my program is it's a one-stop shop. I try to make it so that you have to outsource as little as possible. So yeah, again, check it out at Trist_Nelson if you want to dominate your next show. Just let me know.
My Instagram is will.hardy1 and Will Hardy on YouTube. I appreciate you guys watching this episode. I hope you guys learned something.
Let's finish this out with a prayer.
Yeah.
All right. Lord God, we just thank you for bringing us together here and be able to share information with those who are going into their next prep and helping them just give them the confidence that they need to just dominate and be the animals that they want to be, exercise the freedom that they have, and to be the best versions of themselves, because that's ultimately why we're doing this bodybuilding journey, is to become the best versions of ourselves and to push ourselves past our limits and inspire those who feel like they maybe don't have the permission to do the same, and to do it with such ferocity that it shows them that there is no such thing as limits, Lord. So God, I just pray that you help us continue leading from the front through actions and not just words. That's all I got. What about you?
Yeah, I just pray to add on to that is, you know, help these young generation of bodybuilders and just bodybuilders in general to stay committed to you. I pray that we can radiate your presence through, you know, our presence on stage as well as how we model our lives on you, Lord. I pray that people can take a piece of wisdom from this, as well as, just be able to maybe experience maybe a little bit more of you in their lives, Lord. Pray for all this in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Thanks again for tuning in, guys. Go about your lives with max fucking effort. Let's go.
Peace out.